nói chuyện xong rồi hay là mình nhảy phát vào system design luôn hả anh?
Ờ, thì anh nghĩ là bây giờ sẽ có một số cái không, tức là bây giờ mình sẽ nhảy vào system design luôn đấy em.
Dạ vâng.
Ok, không có gì đâu, tức là cứ 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 thử nghiệm xong rồi. Tức là em
Vâng,
chưa chưa bao giờ đi làm ở những nơi khác, chỉ là
em có kinh nghiệm đi thực tập ạ.
chỉ đi tập thôi. Ok,
Dạ vâng.
em là round thứ mấy của bên Backend rồi nhỉ?
Bên em đấy là round thứ hai,
À, ok.
nên là em cũng vâng, tại vì bình thường em cũng không đi phỏng vấn bình thường thì cũng không có system design mấy.
Visualization. À, ok, rồi. Ok, rồi. Cho anh xin 5 phút nữa nhé. À. Thế em đã đọc nhiều sách về system design chưa?
Em có học qua khóa system design một, đồng thời là em có đọc qua, em hiện tại thì em đang ôn cho chứng chỉ SAA Solution Architect, nên là em nghĩ thế, là em cũng đồng thời vừa học thì vừa hiểu biết thêm về kiến trúc của AWS luôn, để em thấy là nó là cái giúp mình học hiểu biết hơn về cách làm system design hơn, chứ còn em không đọc sách quá,
À,
kiểu gọi là kiểu thuần đọc sách.
à,
Hồi trước thì em có đọc quyển Design Data Intensive Applications, thì hồi đấy thì nó hơi
à,
quá sức. Thế chưa giải, hồi
à,
đấy đọc thì hay, thế nhưng mà nghĩ ra thì nó hơi quá sức, thế nên là em
ừm,
chỉ cố gắng đọc để sao cho để hiểu hiểu biết được là các bộ máy chạy như thế nào, đồng thời mình có một kiến thức chung về kiểu là các công ty mà thuộc các model, mà ví dụ làm về e-commerce hoặc gì đấy thì nó sẽ build dựa trên cái này, thì lúc đấy khi mình nói thì trả lời phỏng vấn thì hay gì đó thì mình sẽ tự tin hơn kiểu đấy. Với cả cũng là em cảm giác em thích làm architect hơn là cũng muốn thì mình cũng muốn hiểu biết cho con chọn bản thân mình thích thôi. Dạ vâng.
ok, sure. Ok, right. Anh nghĩ chắc là ready rồi ấy. Em, thứ nhất là bây giờ em có chuẩn bị một cái notebook hay cái gì không?
Em cũng có, hay là mình cứ lên
Ừ,
một cái
ok. Bây giờ chắc là mình sẽ tạo ra một cái Google Doc để mình sẽ practice từ trên đấy nhé.
dạ vâng.
Ok. Ok, thì để chắc anh sẽ brief sơ cho em về System Design Interview. Thì em sẽ có chừng khoảng 45 đến 50 phút để mình cùng nhau discuss một cái System Design Problems. Thì ok, cái này là Ngọc với lại Huy đúng không? Ok. Em xem coi em có access được đến cái document không nhé.
Dạ vâng.
Ok, xong rồi mình sẽ bắt đầu mình coi get started.
Em
Maybe
biết được
mình
anh.
sẽ chuyển sang tiếng Anh luôn nhé.
Ok.
Ok. Yeah. Hey, hi Huy. So I got your applications for the position at our firm, and I would like to get started by understand a little bit about yourself, and maybe you can share like one of the most challenging technical problem that you have managed to solve in your career.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk a little bit about myself. Let me introducing about my background first. So my name is Lee. I just a recent graduate from Purdue University with a bachelor in computer science. My current interests lying between software engineering, cloud technology, and database. I have had two software engineering internships in the States, one at a local startup named Bepalus, and the other one is a medium-sized company doing advertisement technology called Triple F. And then my current goal has always been trying to get in as a backend engineer. I feel like that role is going to fit my interest the most, as well as opening me the door to get into the industry. And
Okay.
then, yeah.
Mhm.
And then what was the other question that you mentioned
What is
earlier?
the most challenging technical problem that you have solved?
Ooh, okay, okay. Let me think for a bit. So during my internship, I have had a fair chance to get access to a few problems or even tasks that were assigned to me. So there was one time that I have to do a refactoring of a backend of a backend of a product of a company. It was during my time at Triple Lift that I got the chance to refactor the backend API of the company called it Rules API. So a Triple Lift Rules API handling customizations of each individual when they want to get their ad synced. Like for our company, you can customizing the ads to be uh focusing on different age group, different technology, or like no, different what's it called? Different platform, different age group, different time. But then one downside of it is that it took really hard.
Mhm.
It's really hard to change it around and then customize it to each thing. So all the client have to meet up with an engineer in order to kind of like make changes to it. So one thing that we did was to find out how to make it easier for the customer to access that, and also make it easier for them to
Mhm.
change it themselves. So one of the projects I did have to did was to have to understanding how the data flow in the API, and then creating a visualization dashboard for the customer to get access to the API. And then to do this, I had the chance to choosing my own tech stack as well as the design of it. So it was a little bit challenging just because I haven't got really that much like front end experience before. So I have to learn Figma on the fly, reach out to the front end team, learning how to create like a simple design, but it's still really kind of like up to date and then can be easily maintained. Also, I got a chance to actually get involved into like deciding what the tech stack of the project is gonna be. Is it either gonna be a React with customization CSS, or is this gonna be a more modernized kind of like a Next.js with Tailwind CSS kind of like combinations? So I did my presentation on that, comparing both tech stacks, as well as consulting with the team on what is the trajectory of the company want to do. Do they want everything to be on track uh with like their own way of handling it, or are they want to try something new with Next.js and Tailwind CSS? And the whole architecture thing took a little bit too long, so I didn't have the final chance to actually like finish the projects like from end to end. But I did make sure that I leave enough documentations as well as the plan to execute it when I already leave. So overall, it was a good way for me to do something involved in the architecture of like an actual project that can reach out to customer.
So eventually, did you choose React.js or the new Next.js and Tailwind, and why? Which direction did you guys choose and why?
We ended up we ended up choosing with Next.js and Tailwind CSS. And
And
among other, comparing to Svelte or a normal React, we feel like Next.js is a better move toward a more efficiency kind of like what the company wants to do. It's also fit the team, fit one of the guy like tech stack during the team so that he can take over the projects when they leave. So that's why we decided to go with that instead of the normal React and CSS combinations, as well as
and
like Svelte or any other front-end technology.
can you explain more in detail what you mean by efficiency? Like you mentioned, Next.js is more efficiency, has more efficiency than React.js. So can you elaborate?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, when we have this conversations when comparing each different technology, front-end technology to choose from, there was one idea that kind of like came up on top, which is like server-side rendering versus client-side rendering. And so
Mm-hmm.
among other like newer technology, Next.js just had a better performance among them, as well as they are like have more documentation or like with more what's it called? Uh, there is like more higher support rate to it. For Spout, it was a really good technology for front end, but also there's less a support you can find online about that. So that's why we decided to go with Next.js.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you for sharing. So in order to get started with the interview today, I would like you to take a look at these questions of designing a ticket reservation system. So you can imagine that you are helping Taylor Swift to uh, organize her concert in Singapore, and there are gonna be like a lot of people was like very interested in Taylor Swift conference, and they want to buy the ticket. So and then they will need to go to your system and make the reservations for your ticket, meaning choosing the seats and make the payment. So I would like you to think deeply about our problems. And in today's sessions, we're going to go through how we can go about building such a system.
Okay, sounds good. So ticket reserve or like ticket booking system, right?
Yep.
Sounds good. Okay, let's see. Mhm. So I guess like let me start with
I think that is better if you can share your screen as well. So because we're
yep,
doing live streaming, so yep,
yep, sure.
thanks.
Yep. Do you see my screen?
Yeah. Mm.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. So first of all, let's go a little bit on to what kind of action that we are expecting. So let's start with actually determine what's going to be the actor of this thing. It's probably going to be customer, or trying to book a ticket, right? Ticket, right?
Mhm.
And then we're gonna have the system behind it. Let's call what's a good chance vendor. Let's call it vendor then. That like handle the ticket how many ticket there are, what kind of like ticket match each row, how much they are, and then we can. That's probably the two main actor for this kind of system, right?
Yep. So I think that I would like you to zoom in the first item, focus on the action for the customers trying to
Customer
book the ticket. Yeah.
sounds good.
And
Yep.
then if we have time, we can go to how the vendor will handle the ticket later on.
Okay. Yeah. So for the customer, there's one thing definitely they have to do, which is like let's go with that. Find the ticket. I'm guessing it's a Taylor Swift concert, right? So it can be spent like multiple days with different cities, right? Or do you want me to like kind of like minimize it to only like one city, one time slot?
I think that for now we can just do it for sort of like one concert, because it can be a multiple day and people can buy like on a different day. But let's just focus on one day first,
One
like
concert
one
in one
day,
day.
and then in that day you have maybe several thousand seats.
Okay. Let's do a thousand seat, or do you want it to be if it's like okay. Let's focus on the action first, and then we can go down to like we can estimate what is the traffic going to be like. So definitely the customer has to book the ticket. So find and choosing the ticket, uh, fill out so we just buying and check out, and check out. Then check out is going to be like fill personal informations, and then payment. Fine, choosing the ticket and check out. And then maybe one more, maybe like access of ticket. When they come to the concert or something like that, they can show up with the ticket so that they confirm they're buying it. So that's a ticket dashboard. Find it, check out, and access the ticket, upload that. Yeah, I feel like there should only be three main actions for customer. Do you feel like I'm missing any actions?
I think that for the find and choose, I think that that is fair enough to me. I think that in the circumstances where there need to be a lot of customers like booking the ticket at the same time, what do you think in your opinion, what can happen?
There's gonna be a lot of concurrency happening. People can the ticket can be selling fast. There's multiple people gonna be trying to check out at the same time, choosing the same ticket or the same row. So there's gonna be like a bottleneck of traffic coming in. And also we want to kind of keep track the ticket so that like we cannot sold like two seat to different like a seat to different people. So we that's gonna be one of the main problem that we have to solve. And also, we kind of don't want it to be down too much. Just like as like when there is like a like concert of this big happening, the system can be overloaded with a lot of users trying to access the website, trying to buy the ticket. So there's gonna be a lot of traffic in. It can like crash the site. It can slow down everything. And so we want to reduce the latency or like keep the availability higher. So that's also another priority that we want to keep. As well as we don't want to kind of like affect other like functionality of the website, so that other customers who don't want this concert can still access to the our system.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Sounds good. And so let's focus on these three main actions then. All right. So let's go down to let's do a little bit of what's it called? Estimations. Let's do a little estimation. So what the traffic gonna look like? Maybe we can assume maybe like the ticket, like the stadium can have it like can fit 50,000 people then? 3,000 people. So it's our seat tickets. In that case, like let's assume that like everybody ticket was the same. Let's not focus on like what kind of like we have special ticket that can sell like for like a higher price or like it's different role. Or do you want me to go to into like that kind of deep for this design?
We can go into that later on. Yep.
Oh, okay, sounds good. And then I guess like for each for the traffic, usually for 50,000 tickets for this kind of like caliber of Taylor Swift, I feel like there at least has to be like 20 times this kind of ticket traffic going in. So we're expecting nearly like a meal, maybe like a meal like kind of traffic trying to access our system at the same time. Do you feel like that's number too big, or do you feel like that's kind of like the right trajectory? Like right
That is
estimation.
reasonable.
Okay, 1 mil of traffic in sounds good. Um, uh, so okay. So I guess it's gonna be hard to kind of like calculate anything. Just like it's harder for us to keep the daily user active or anything like that. The only thing we can estimate was the traffic coming in. That's the only thing we can do. So do you want to skip to the overview or like the high level of the our design?
Sure, you can go ahead with suggesting a high level overview of the design.
Yeah, just I kind of feel like going into estimations, the hour, like what's it called? The most important thing is traffic coming in. So I feel like estimate that number is like gonna be the most important thing. It's like we kind of like don't know about like how we're gonna keep the ticket or like how big the system gonna be to hold that kind of like different customer information or anything like that. So yeah, let's go into high level design. So there's gonna be consumer to ticket. Find another one to process the ticket selling. And then we're gonna have the backend in the database. I forgot. How do we design the data flow now, or like the how do we design the API now, or we do is that gonna be the step after this?
What would you think?
I feel like this is like we kind of like we only focusing on the customer, right? So if we go into like a high level design now, it's kind of like too big. Because I feel like just gonna be like two main things, which is like the ticket system and the payment system. That's gonna be the two big thing that we can. So literally, it's just gonna be a ticket system, some connected to the database, and then we're gonna be a ticket system, gonna be linking to the payment system. I feel like that's all we need on to the high level design. Maybe we may need another database to hold customer database or customer and then database for tickets.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe you can spend some time to list out like what API that we need to have for this system.
Yeah, I feel like going that gonna be give us more time to think, like process. So let's see. Let's go into booking. So let's call it booking. So let's see, we're gonna need the ticket ID, the price of it, maybe uh, 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 the time and the locations. And then there's gonna be customer ID. Yeah. The booking ticket ID, price, time, location, customer ID, and then the status.
Wait a minute. Is it the API design or is it database design?
Oh, so the let's start with the idea design first. I feel like going
Okay,
into the API design kind of like give me the better like a flow on how to design the
sure,
data.
sure. So an API called booking, and then it will take in a ticket ID, the price,
Yeah,
locations, and customer ID and status. Okay.
yeah,
What are the other API that you will need to have?
yeah. We gonna need a payment API that can get the ticket ID. Uh, it's gonna have access to the price as well as the payment status. Payment status. Uh, this if it is available, then the return successful successful and redirect to payment system. uh, payment ID, got the ticket
So
ID.
just to clarify that the ticket ID representing the seat in the stadium, on what does this ticket ID represent?
Oh, the ticket ID is gonna be linking to. I'm thinking it's gonna be like a way for us to keep track of what kind of ticket they are. Like ticket gonna be like having the like having like a few uh like feel like how much is the price of it, what kind of like concert is that, and then maybe
So in this API, basically, if you have a ticket ID already, then it's kind of like indicative of the price, right? Then why do we need the additional parameters as the price into the API?
oh yeah, true, makes sense, yeah, yeah, sorry about that. So we can hold that off to the database design. ID bin says uh, and then customer ID.
And for the status, what can be the value, and why do we need to pass in the status? The status, is it belonging to the ticket ID or is it belonging to the customer ID?
Oh, the status is going to be belonging to the ticket ID. It's going to check on the database if the ticket is already sold or is still available to buy. Just because
Okay,
like I
so when
thinking so in my thinking, just so we already have like to solve the problem of concurrency, right? To checking if there's two tickets selling at the same row. So we need to do another status to check if the ticket is available or not.
so should that be a separate API or is it need to be combined with this API?
We can break it down to another API if we want to. Let's call it uh so let's go validate. Yes, validate ticket. Ticket is gonna have take in ticket ID and then return status that show if the ticket is of true true if the ticket is available to grab to buy grab or false if the ticket uh, now this is gonna be the ticket ID, the no status of the ticket ID, the customer ID, and and then it's system, and then wait for the payment status, the payment status, and then confirmations, and if successful. Yeah, con nó có việc, con nó có việc nhá, không. Okay, let's get back to it. What was I doing? So confirmation if successful, and then if not, then redirect back to the choosing ticket and ticket fix. And ID, grab the ticket ID, grab the customer ID, and then payment, and then return payment status. Okay. And then pay payment one group.
Okay. So let's focus on this three API
Yeah.
that you just present. Maybe can you work backward for like the overall system design? Maybe can you share with me in terms of like the system design more in terms of like database, in terms of like what are the services that you're gonna be running, and how are they connected to each other? Maybe you can use some tool for drawing out like the diagram.
Okay. Um, so for that,
So maybe one example was like if a request calling booking or like let's first like validate ticket to see whether like that ticket is available or not. How did that request gonna hit? Like, is it gonna hit your server? Is it gonna hit your server gonna call database and stuff like that? Maybe we can go down into like detail of like one flow of one of the API as an example.
yeah. Okay. So let's do like kind of like a flow of it, right? So when a customer like trying to buy the ticket, right? A customer buy the ticket, buy the ticket, and then it's come down to send booking to our system, and then it's gonna be calling the API validate ticket to see validate ticket to check and then this API, and then this gonna be calling the database to check if the to check to query and check the availability of the status of the ticket. Then after that and after that the available status gonna be coming back to our system, and then the system gonna be accepting that and then redirect the customer to the payment system. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
So with this flow, basically, if there are two user booking the same ticket concurrently, what can happen?
The problem is that like during our validate, there is like a chance that like two customer can buy two tickets at the same time. And so if we didn't solve the problem, maybe we can like accidentally sell like like a ticket to two different customers.
So do you have any solution for these problems?
Yeah, one thing that I can think of is that like one of the two things I can think of is definitely one is called a pessimistic lock, which is just like having giving the reserve. So one way to do it is like pessimistic mystic lock. So to give the customer like a 5 minutes window to reserve the ticket for them, for that reserve the ticket. And then another thing for me when looking at it was optimistic mystic lock. What that be is like when we validate the ticket is when we can check the query of it. When I think of optimistic log, I'm thinking of like a query insert the ticket to a table with the ticket informations only if where the previous eval status is available. Is true or available. So when I think of optimistic log, I was thinking of like how the API gonna query the database, and then basically it's gonna only allowing new tickets to coming in if their previous status is available. That's how I think of like another solutions to this problem. And then I'm pretty sure there's like another way to do it, but like I can think of one like on the spot right now.
So why didn't you use optimistic log instead of like that you need to use pessimistic logging?
I feel like just because like the one of the thing I'm thinking of is like when we are doing a ticket, one is like better for one is like better to handle like higher. It just like come down to like the safety of it. I feel like so when we've got a lot of traffic in, the pessimistic log gonna be able to handle. What's it called? Give us more assist kind of like how to explain this. Hmm. So for optimistic log, we kind of like want it one when a lot of traffic coming in, we kind of like assume everything is correct, assume it, we can let everything go. So it's a little bit less safe, and then and then we can go through with that. Whereas for pessimistic log, we focus on to like how the database can hold like their trueness. So for example, like we only let for a pessimistic block, we kind of like only allow it to be uh to go through if there's if there's guarantee. So one is like safer for our system, and the other one is like better for if we just want to go with the speed. I feel like that's like the one way to look at it.
Okay, got you. Okay, then I think one of the requirement that can coming in is that so you can imagine that when a lot of users were trying to book at the same times, then basically we needed to basically allow them to able to get the ticket that they want if we have an additional ticket available. So imagine that like in the system, there are a lot of concurrent users were requesting for they want to book a ticket, they want to book a ticket. And then there's one user just suddenly they say like, I able to make a reservations, but I don't want I cannot make the payments, for example. Then how can we handle that scenario so that we can still make sure that people are still waiting for the ticket will be able to serve in the first come first serve basis.
Yeah. So another way I can think of, I just come out to my mind was using a queue. So we can definitely do like a first come first serve, kind of like a queue, like first in first out kind of a queue. So that like we can choose like what kind like how many people can go into the queue, and then we can also give them the proper like output, so that our payment system can handle that traffic, so that it's not all too overwhelmed with like a lot of like confirmation trying to buy the ticket. And we also can add in like a load balancer so that like only a batch of ticket can go out during like 5 minutes or something like that. One thing that I can see other like system can have is that like they only give out a certain ticket during like a 5 minutes interval, during like 10 minute interval. It can also help with the way we did the lock as well. Just like it give our system more time to handle that kind of traffic in. That's why I was like we can do like a better like availability so that like the customer can have a better experience. Does that
So
make
in
sense?
order to implement that in the implement the queue that you intend to have, like what kind of technology that you can think of?
Yeah, I so for AWS, I think there is like one thing that called it. Oh, and I forgot about that. Forgot the name of it. But like one thing that we can add during our server size so that it can handle the traffic in and then give out like give it a more balanced traffic. That's one thing I think of. For AWS, there's like a service like that, but I forgot the name of it.
Oh, okay, but I mentioned about like how could you implement like the queue that you intend to implement for keeping track of all the because all the customers who are waiting.
Do you mean like how to like handle the index of them? Like what how to like keep track of like who's coming in first, who's coming out next? Like kind of the idea.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Ooh, okay,
So
that's
basically, we have a lot of people have like requesting to be waiting for the ticket, right? And then right now you also put a load balancer, like which means that behind that load balancer, there a different set of server were taking the request from customers in. Um, and so how would you maintain such a like a queue of customers to make sure that they all coming from on a first come first serve basis? Because for so you can imagine that like if a customer were hitting one of the customer hitting on server A and the other customer were hitting on server B, like then they will need to be NQ somehow the distance between server A to the queue to the system the overall system is lowered or whatever can cause it, but then we need to make sure that we can keep track of the queue across all of these all of the machine.
that's a great questions. So not only do we have to keep track of first come first serve, we also keep track of all the queue, like not getting them like too fast or like we sold out the ticket to that queue, or like we not only like letting one queue through or something like that. Okay, that's mm, let me think for a sec. Hmm. 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 For the first come first serve of the queue, I feel like maybe we can do something like a time like the timestamp of like what kind of like connection they made, like the request they made to the system. We can keep track of the timestamp of it and then put that in the queue and then whichever timestamp hit first or like come first, then we can allow them to have hydro checkout. That's one thing I can think of to for the first half kind of queue. We'll have to keep when we're having to keep track of all the traffic of the queue. Oof. Hmm.
Okay, all right.
I don't think I can think of a solution like that on the spot now. Do you have any
Okay,
recommendations?
okay. You are getting there until at the timestamp, and then I think it's just the matter of like how to rearrange all of the traffic into which timestamp is the smallest in a current memory storage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then just as like there's gonna be a lot of customer coming in at the same timestamp, so maybe you can do something like a queue, but like in each timestamp there's gonna be a list. So each timestamp gonna be like a list of customer that like come in at that time, so they can like move in at that time. After we can after we process that kind of timestamp, we move on to the next timestamp. So to me, it's still like a big kind of like a big hash map, and with the key, it's each timestamp, and then in the hash map, it's gonna be a list of customer. I feel like that's one way to think of it, but I cannot really like explain the actual term of it because I don't think like I can have ever like got access to that kind of information.
All
But
right.
yeah,
Maybe we can move to another sort of like you mentioned about the load balancing. How would you load balance for the traffic that coming in for ticket booking?
so for the load balance, I feel like we can like kind of like divide out the traffic to be coming in into like multiple different server. That server gonna be coming into its server gonna be connected to our system so that there's gonna be less traffic coming in. And I think that's pretty much it. Or
So how the load balancer will assign the traffic to the specific server?
hmm, when I think of a load balancer, it's just dividing the flow of the request into smaller form so that like it's not like over so that like one system one like server is not really overwhelmed with the amount of requests coming in, but I'm not really sure on how do they divide that up.
Okay, gotcha. Um, all right. I think that's all of the questions that I have related to the design. I think um, I think yes. If you have any questions for me,
Yeah, I feel like, do you mean like the question about this design, right?
um, yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like when I was like doing this the system, I can have the overall idea of like how the it's gonna flow gonna be flowing. Like when it's come down to the problem of like how to actually divide the request up, I feel like I'm not really have enough knowledge to handle that part. I can think of like certain way to use it, but not really sure like how are they gonna work. For your experience, like in designing a like a real time kind of like system like this, what kind of like a better way or like easier way for a company to implement a solution like this?
I think that as long as we gather like the sufficient informations about the problem and the scope, I think that we would be able to design and implement the system according to the design itself. So I think that it's very important to do the problem scoping, um, uh, high level design of the system and low level design, uh, explaining some of the concern related to scalability and reliability of the problems. Yeah. Okay. Ừ, rồi Huy ơi, chắc là vậy thì chắc là anh sẽ spend some time để summarize lại cái feedback của em về cái buổi phỏng vấn này ha. Ừ.
Dạ vâng.
Ừ.
Em biết là em cũng mới cho nên là anh cứ cho ý kiến xác thực nhất có thể anh ạ, không dám sẵn nói trái cái gì đâu anh. Tại vì
À
em nghĩ
không
là
không
đây là
không
một cơ hội
anh
khá là
không
tốt
có.
để gọi
Ờ,
là để mình trải nghiệm cũng đồng thời để coi như là kiểu để mình học hỏi thêm. Tại em biết là kiến thức của em khá là ít ỏi về mặt system design này. Tại em thấy là hầu hết mọi thứ mà em gặp qua là em tự học hoặc là em tìm hiểu qua đâu đó, chứ em không thực sự đào sâu để hiểu nó từng cái nhỏ trong này nó hoạt động như nào.
Ừ, ừ.
Dạ
Thì
vâng.
thật sự là sau cái buổi này thì anh cũng cũng share được xem idea với em. Anh nghĩ là anh nghĩ là sẽ tốt hơn, tại vì anh nghĩ là anh cũng đã trong trên cái buổi phỏng vấn anh rất là be very very specific về về cái cách tiếp cận của em về API design. Tại vì khi mà em viết cái API design như thế đấy thì anh là nhìn tưởng nó giống như hệt như là database design. Ví dụ như
Ừ.
em design là booking có ticket ID, có price, có information này, tức là API design thì nó phải ví dụ như là em dùng cái ngôn ngữ là REST đi, thì nó phải thể hiện đúng là cái API đó là gì, API đó là post, là cái này là cái API endpoints, cái này là cái payload nó như thế nào
Ừ.
đó. Nếu mà em miêu tả cái API design đó dưới dạng như mình đang dùng trên cái doc của em hiện tại bây giờ ấy, là dưới dạng gRPC, kiểu như là mà function call đi
Ừ.
đấy, thì cái đó nó sẽ nó thường là anh thấy là trong interview thì người ta vẫn sử dụng cái đó, tại vì nó ngắn hơn, tại vì bây giờ ngồi viết cái rest ra thì nó sẽ tốn rất nhiều thời gian, đúng không đấy. Thì cái phần đấy thì anh cảm giác là em chưa có chưa có để tâm, để tức là put a lot of effort in ấy,
Ừ.
tại vì là em cứ assuming là cái design nó sẽ như thế, nhưng mà nó phải rất là clear, tại vì cái này rất
Ừ.
là quan trọng, tại vì cái này nó là cái interface của cái system mà. Khi mà em
Vâng.
build bất kỳ software nào nó mà em phải rất là clear là cái interface nó có bao gồm bao nhiêu method, những cái parameters của những cái method đó là cái gì đấy. Cái đấy là một cái pitfall, ờ, và cũng có thể là một cái concern lớn nhất. Nếu mà người ta interview em thì người ta sẽ concern là em chưa có go into a level of detail in terms of
Ừ.
the API design như thế nào. Ờ, anh cũng chưa có thời gian để mà go into detail với em là cái database của cái này sẽ được design như thế nào.
Dạ vâng.
Đấy là một cái pitfall đó. Thì nếu mà với một cái câu hỏi như thế này thì nhiều interviewer họ sẽ có thể go into cái detail đó nữa, nếu mà họ muốn go into để mà họ verify lại cái design của em, ngay cả như là chọn tên tên biến như thế nào, rồi tổ chức nó như thế nào để cho nó make sense đó.
Dạ
à
vâng.
Đấy thì cái đó là cái design part, thì anh nghĩ là cái đó em yếu. Em tức là
Dạ
em
vâng.
vẫn chưa có, em yếu, nhưng mà em vẫn, anh nghĩ là em hiểu, nhưng
Ừ.
mà em cần phải pay attention kỹ hơn
Dạ vâng.
cái phần đấy. Ok.
Dạ vâng.
Ờ, Phần thứ hai thì những cái câu hỏi về distributed system, như là ok, nếu mà trong trường hợp đó thì cần làm gì á, thì
Dạ
anh
vâng.
nghĩ là em cũng get được cái concept. Em cũng hiểu được cách cách và cũng trả lời chính xác, nhưng mà cái cách em giải thích thì nó vẫn chưa
Ừ.
có chi tiết và hiệu quả lắm. Ví dụ như là em có chia sẻ về optimistic với là pessimistic locking, đúng không?
Ừ.
Thì ờ, thật sự ra nếu mà cái này mình làm optimistic locking, tức là ờ, hai người user cùng book một cái ticket, xong rồi đến lúc cuối cùng mà họ mới vỡ lẽ ra là họ không có pay được. Tức
Ừ.
là giải thích như vậy thì có thể đưa ra một cái là ok, cái user experience này nó so fucked up rồi, đúng không? Tức
Nó
là cái
vâng.
user experience như vậy là nó rất là dở, thì thành ra là nó có đấy. Nhưng mà cũng good là em đưa ra được những cái theoretically understanding của cái pessimistic locking với lại optimistic locking, thì cái đó cũng là điểm cộng cho em. Ờ, Về phần Q thì em cũng đi đến gần đúng cái đáp án, tức là em cũng keep track of timestamp, xong rồi em cũng có thể là, tại vì để mà lưu được cái gọi là ờ, gọi là cái queue của những người mà đến trước đến sau đó, thì sẽ có thể dùng một cái share memory store, ví dụ như một cái concept đơn giản như là Redis. hoặc những cái memory store khác mà nó có support một số cái more sophisticated data structure. Yeah. Ờ, tất nhiên là em không có mention cái data cái store nào thì anh cũng không có go into detail là trong cái đó thì nó dùng cái data structure nào của cái store đấy. Ừ. Ok. Về ờ, cái bài toán về load balancing thì anh nghĩ là cái này đang nói về cái gọi là scale với ờ, của cái system thì anh nghĩ là em ông cũng có thể trả lời được là load balancing nó sẽ um, work như thế nào, nhưng mà thực ra cái câu hỏi này thì anh phrase cũng hơi chưa 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 được hiệu quả lắm, thì anh đang muốn nói về làm sao để mà cái traffic, cái data store nó được evenly distributed trong cái system của mình. Thì có cái đó thì thì nếu mà thật ra cái cách phrase câu hỏi nó cũng hơi bị chưa được chuẩn lắm đấy, nhưng mà cái basically nó get đến cái phần thứ hai là cái data partition sẽ được work như thế nào. Nhưng mà tại vì cái phần mà em làm cái section trước đó là về nói về mình chưa có cơ hội để mình đi sâu về database design á, thì
Dạ vâng.
không có go nhiều vấn đề của em liên quan đến 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 data với data partitioning.
Ồ,
Ừ.
công nhận.
Ok.
Kiểu bây giờ anh đề cập đến từ partition thì em nhận ra đúng là mình làm load balancing dựa trên partition về index. Hợp lý.
Ok.
Vâng.
Ok, rồi bây giờ còn cái điểm về điểm thứ ba nữa là khi em làm về requirements á,
Hỏi nhiều nữa.
em phải viết hết á, tức là hỏi nhiều thì cũng được nhưng mà cũng không 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 nhất thiết phải hỏi nhiều đâu, nhưng mà anh nghĩ là em nên viết lại hết những cái requirements mà mình đã discuss. Tức là anh nghĩ là em có viết lại cái phần về ờ, functional requirements nhưng mà em không có viết về non-functional requirements, thì những cái mà em viết lại như vậy thì nó sẽ là good reference để em có thể ace cái interview ờ, tốt hơn ấy. Ừ. Đấy. Ok, thì đấy là một số cái feedback chung của anh. Ừ.
Dạ vâng.
Ok rồi Huy. Khi nào em interview?
Em chia sẻ em mới như xong và
Có
em
thế
cũng
à?
mới, dạ vâng, em cũng
Ờ,
mới có kết quả là em cũng tạch. Thế
thế
nên
à?
là dạ vâng, thế em cũng đoán là kiểu là hôm đấy em đi phỏng vấn em cũng có nói rằng nó khá là giống cái performance của ngày hôm nay, em cũng hiểu được ý tưởng đúng. Thế nhưng mà em
Yeah.
thiếu khá nhiều về mặt chi tiết. Em cảm giác một cái mà em hơi thiếu kỹ năng, đó là việc là assume những cái gì mà mình có thể assume.
Ừ, ừ, ừ,
Kiểu
ừ.
như là kiểu mình không biết là mình cần gì đến lúc mà mình cần nói rồi nói. Em nhận ra
Yeah,
là ví dụ
yeah.
khi mà em design cái API thì em không, em cứ assume là mình biết hết mọi thứ. Như kiểu em assume là kiểu cái ticket ID này là mình biết được cái thông tin của cái ticket đấy ID ấy rồi.
Ừ,
Rồi kể
ừ,
cả cái
ừ.
customer ID cũng thế, em cứ cả assume là mình có một cái table mà có chứa các cái customer information đấy rồi.
Ừ,
Thế là nhiều
ừ,
lúc khi em nói ra, khi em viết ra thì cái ý tưởng của mình nó không clear hoàn toàn, và mình
ừ,
chỉ kiểu là kiểu assume là mình đang nghĩ, nhưng mà trước chắc là người người phỏng vấn mình đã nghĩ chung ý tưởng với mình,
ừ,
người ta đã biết được
ừ,
là mình đang nghĩ gì.
ừ,
Thế
ừ,
nên là anh
đúng
có
đúng.
lời khuyên nào cho cái để cải thiện vấn đề đấy không ạ?
ờ, Theo anh thì anh nghĩ là practice nhiều thôi. Anh nghĩ là với lại là thường là nếu mà em trong công ty em cần phải làm system design nhiều ấy, thì em sẽ
Dạ vâng.
quen với cái cách mà là làm sao để trình bày cho người khác hiểu. À,
Ừ.
đấy thì cái đó là hai cái yếu tố. Thứ nhất là practice. Và thứ hai á là quen với là cái cách mock interview như thế này. Tại vì anh nghĩ là mình thì chắc là em học ở Mỹ thì anh cũng biết là ở Mỹ là chắc là mọi người mock interview lai láng luôn đúng không nhỉ? Tức là
Dạ
cứ mỗi
vâng,
lần
chủ
đi
yếu
phỏng vấn
là
thì
nếu mà mock
mock
thì cũng
interview
chỉ
là
mock kiểu ví dụ kiểu CS fundamental hoặc là kiểu data
à,
structure
à,
algorithm là chủ yếu.
à,
Chứ rất là
à, à.
ít khi mà kiểu em cảm giác là kiểu khi mà nói về như Pratt ở Mỹ thì em thấy rất ít, gần như không có hỏi về system design, mà nó sẽ chuyển sang
Ừm,
kiểu một dạng kiểu OOP design hoặc kiểu API design thôi. Rồi nó
ừm,
thường sẽ focus vào kiểu API hoặc là vào database design.
Ừ,
Tại vì
ừ,
là ví dụ lần trước cũng có một lần đi phỏng vấn thì khi mà em design cái database thì họ sẽ hỏi rất là nhiều câu hỏi liên quan đến kiểu các loại database khác nhau, hoặc là em sẽ query cái này như thế nào, hoặc là các loại khi mà em partition cái data table đấy để sau này kiểu scale lên thì nó sẽ dễ như thế nào. Thì em nghĩ là
ừ,
họ hỏi những câu đấy để vẫn như kiểu là mình biết được cái suy nghĩ của mình, đồng thời là test được cái độ rộng với cả độ phủ của cái kiến thức nền của mình như thế nào.
ừ,
Chứ em ít
đúng.
khi động đến những bài toán thật sự là to như thế này, và đồng thời kiểu bạn bè với nhau ấy thì như kiểu mình ít khi gọi là có những ai có kinh nghiệm thực tế để có thể là đi móc được những thứ này.
Ừ, ok.
Dạ vâng.
Ok, thôi mong là buổi hôm nay sẽ giúp cho Huy có chuẩn bị tốt hơn cho những kỳ interview sắp tới nhé. Ừ,
Dạ vâng
ok,
ạ. Dạ vâng,
ok,
em cảm ơn anh ạ.
ok, anh chào Huy nhé. Bye Huy.
Dạ vâng, em
Ừ.
cảm ơn anh ạ.